Imagine this, you had just spent 4 of the last years of your life far and away from home. You'd gone to university, taking 4 grueling years to study, spending your time and money on an investment you had high hopes for. You majored in a field that promised you riches and gold to fulfill your every needs and desires. As you walk across the stage, you shake the hand of the person who grants you your degree. After all that's been completed, you now find yourself in a job that is slightly different from what you'd imagined. In fact, it's a job that isn't what you studied for, but it's within the greater discipline and line of work you're familiar with. You soon realize that maybe this isn't really what you want to do, and you apply for graduate school, you get accepted, and now all you have to do is really accept the offer. But there's something stopping you. You can't exactly put your tongue on it, and a wave of uncertainty rushes past you, and you're stuck in a loop of contemplation. Should you or should you not take up this opportunity? Is it something you want to go into debt for? What happens if things don't work out? And is this really something you want to pursue, or is it just something that seems more convenient than it really is? What if things turn out differently in your job in the future? There's an element of the unknown. It raises many questions that are hard to answer, questions that make you doubt yourself. While you've gone to school before, this feels entirely different. It's a new level of commitment, one that is much more costly and one that holds many uncertainties. It's a psychological response, one we can view as fear, and not fear that's abstract as horror, but one that's much more complex that goes beyond what we traditionally associate it with. And one such example can be the fear of the unknown, but fear nonetheless. Fear as we know it is an unpleasant and often strong emotion caused by anticipation or unawareness of danger. This danger can be anything that ranges from pain or a threat to one's life. It may come in the form of an anxious concern or a reason to be alarmed. Fear itself is both a psychological and emotional response that we have that's akin to a sort of first line of defense. It's a response that provokes our instinct for self-preservation, a fight or flight response, if you will. Imagine you're going camping for the weekends, heading out into the forest where you set up camp. You traverse through the forest, brushing past many twigs, trees, bushes, and debris, looking for the perfect spot. As you walk and push onward, you come to an abrupt stop. In the distance, past all the branches and leaves, you see a large figure, slowly moving through the dense forest. It's a bear. You are frozen in your tracks, written with fear. Your watchful gaze is glued to the bear, and your body is on high alert. You know it's not wise to cross paths with such an animal, and fear that something bad will happen if you don't turn back this instant. That's what fear does to you. It's a defense mechanism. Fear isn't exclusively a negative emotion, it's a means of rationality that prevents us from partaking in actions that lead us to undesirable consequences. In a way, it makes us stop and question ourselves to facilitate a means to a conclusion. And in relation to fear, it isn't solely applicable to instances of self-preservation. As human evolution takes its course, human civilization develops, and many dangers that plagued our ancestors, by and large, aren't something we have to worry about anymore. With the issue of basic survival nearly eliminated in most modern societies, fear now encompasses much more than just self-preservation. As we become more concerned about our livelihood, purpose, expectations, and connections, so too does fear. It starts to become more of a social phenomenon. If you were ever that kid in school who didn't understand the material, had many questions as your teacher lectured, or needed clarification on your assignments, you might have kept those concerns to yourself. Although it's the perfect environment that encourages you to ask questions, you feel self-conscious, you feel frightened. You can't put your finger on it. Why is it that you're so fearful of raising your hand? As someone who's gone through similar circumstances in the past, I understand it as fear. Perhaps it's the fear of standing out, being the only person in the room with their hand up. Perhaps it's the fear of sounding ignorant. What if people think it's a dumb question? Perhaps it's the fear of wasting people's time. These are all possible explanations for why we choose not to raise our hands, and this type of behavior isn't easily understandable. It's complex and delves into our psychology. It's indicative of a greater point that I want to present. how fear leads to inaction. Similar to encountering a bear in the woods, many would be frozen in place. While not exactly the same, we have an equivalent understanding in a social context. When we circle back to the first dilemma about going to grad school, it's something I've actually faced, which led me to create this very video. In that scenario, there's a sense of fear that prevents me from taking action. While additional schooling isn't something that's unfamiliar to myself, it's still somewhat different. If it was redoing my bachelor's, there isn't that element of the unknown. I've done it already, and I know what to expect. This, however, I don't know what to expect. I don't know if I'll be able to get out of it that's worth the debt. The first time applying for university, we have assistance from our family, friends, teachers, and counselors. It's a decision made with certainty and influenced by those around us. This time around, it's making a decision void of that, a decision that solely rests on our own shoulders. That's what really gets me. Having to make this huge decision on my own, it's something I'm not used to. It's a fear of the unknown, and it stops me in my tracks, leading to inaction. I remain stuck, hovering between two choices, unwilling to move forward but unable to stay still. That's what fear can do. It builds a wall in your mind, not out of facts, but out of what-ifs. Out of stories we tell ourselves about what could go wrong. It becomes easier to freeze than to take a step. Easier to stay in the comfort of indecision than face the risk of being wrong. But ironically, not choosing is also a choice, and that's the paradox of fear. It convinces us that doing nothing keeps us safe, when in truth, it's also a decision. Whether it chips away at the things we desire is up for debate. We often think that fear is loud, something dramatic, but sometimes fear is quiet. It's a whisper in the back of your mind, a question with no answer, a hesitation that lingers long after the moment has passed. It's not always about being terrified. Sometimes it's just not knowing what to do and being too afraid to find out. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because fear doesn't always look like panic. Sometimes it looks like stillness. It's something many people deal with. Fear can be scary, unpredictable, irritating, complicated, just about any adjective imaginable. Fear may put rationality in our decisions, or it may hold us back if we're not careful. And most of all, fear gives us a choice. Maybe fear isn't meant to be conquered, but carried. Something that stays with us, not as a warning, but as a companion that we never really asked for. We like to think that if we dig deep enough, we'll find clarity, or that the answers will come once the fear goes away. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes we're left with uncertainty, no matter how much we think or prepare. And maybe that's just part of it. There isn't always a clear resolution. Fear might not fade, the choice might not become easier, and the outcome might never feel certain. But we still move, hesitant, doubtful, and unsure. Or maybe we don't. Maybe we wait, and that's okay. There's no single right way to respond to fear. Sometimes all we can do is sit with it and accept that not every question gets answered. But I personally think the best way to get rid of that uncertainty is taking a chance. Whether it is a good or bad idea, we'll let the consequences dictate that answer.